Welcome back to SledgeHammer Horror. I am Ken Sledge, and today I am joined by the hardworking men and women of the, oh my gosh, I got so many people on the screen right now. This is the first time I've done an episode like this, so I'm trying to keep up with everybody here. So right now I got everybody from the Horror Hound Film Festival, all the hardworking men and women that make this thing possible. How's everybody doing today?
Doing good.
Great.
Thank you guys all for coming on. This means a lot to me. I'm going to go through and do some introductions real quick. That way everybody can be on board. Here we got Dr. Michelle Conty. Michelle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I was working with my partner, Angie, making a movie this weekend. So ran in and sat down to do this. So super excited to be here.
I'm super excited to have you. While we're on that, let's go right to Angie Scharold. Angie, how are you doing today?
Doing great also. Same basic story. I ran in, I washed all the blood out of everything that needed the blood washed out of, and here I am.
My shoes are still soaked with blood.
Oh.
That is a sentence I did not expect to hear today. I ran in and washed the blood out of everything that needs blood washed out of it. That's the best sentence I've heard all day. Here I got Kelci Regan. Kelci, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Just made my background today.
Nice.
Super busy Sunday, I know.
I love it. It looks really good.
Oh, thanks.
And now over here we got JK. Jay, how are you doing today, brother?
I'm good, Ken. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's so awesome to have you guys. This is the first time I've done an episode this big, so I'm super excited and super nervous at the same time. So if I mess up a little bit, guys, I know I stumbled at the beginning, but this is something I'm so excited about. I've been excited all day. Even the Lions game couldn't take the wind out of my sails today. So down here I have Audery Lane. Audery, how are you?
I am doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, this is fun. We haven't been able to do something like this before, and so I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. This is extremely awesome. And last but most certainly not least, I have the coolest beard out of all of us, George Lane. George, how are you today, brother?
Thank you very much. I'm doing pretty good. Just grinding, putting together this film festival. I'm the co-film festival director, so it's definitely a task, but it's good.
Well, we're absolutely excited that you're doing it. I believe I just had somebody else join. I'm trying to see
Yay.
where they are. I don't know. It's telling me they joined, but I can't find them. I don't know. Well, sorry about that, guys. That's weird. So what we're doing today, guys, is we are talking with these fine men and women. So with the film festival, I don't know who wants to take over this answer. I know that you guys are not doing a physical film festival this year. You are doing it online. How can people attend this? How can they watch? Anybody want to take that one?
George, you want to get it?
Yeah, so this is our second cycle that we've done. Our first one was in May because of our March film festival and convention was canceled. It was postponed. And then in May, since we still couldn't have it, they decided, all right, let's put together something virtual. So our president, he's awesome, put together a website. He built it up and made it to where we can show all of our films virtually. And now this year, it's the same year, now this September, we are adding the convention side to it. So there are going to be celebrity guests also attending this one. So we're pretty excited about that. But we're, since we're on the film festival end, we're putting together everything, and we've continued to learn from mistakes and issues that we had last time, which were very few, and just build that so we can become better.
Right. Well, and like I was saying to you guys before we started recording, I appreciate all the hard work you guys do. There's a lot of indie films out there that, especially getting hit with COVID, that may not even be being made this year that would have been being made. And the fact that you guys are still even going virtually to help promote these indie films and get them the credit that they deserve. They don't get a lot of the big box office money or the Hollywood money to go out and push their stuff. So people like you doing what you guys are doing, it's amazing to fans like me that love watching these indie films, because who knows, without you guys promoting them the way that you do, they might not ever reach me. So because you guys are putting in all the hard work, even during COVID, during a whole everybody being in quarantine, we're in a pandemic. You guys are still out there, you know, boots to the ground, kicking ass. So thank every single one of you for doing what you guys are doing. It really means a lot to all of us fans. So I don't want to oversell you guys, or I'm not trying to downplay what you do. It's just, it's amazing. And all of us are so appreciative of the hard work that you guys are doing out there.
Yeah, that's what's important to us too, is getting those movies and getting them out. And to answer the other part of your question is, everyone can watch at live.horrorhound.com. We can throw some links up for you. Oh, there she is! Yay! Of where they can get connected and get tickets. Tickets are still on sale. There are some limited VIP boxes still. Packages still available. So we can drop some links, and that's how you watch. It is all live stream, and it's going to be a blast. We've got so many things going on.
And all those links are down here in the description as well. So if you guys want to check it out, it'd be awesome. You get to hang out virtually and watch these movies, get to talk. You said there'll be some actors and actresses being a part of it as well?
So we're doing post-screening Q&As after each scheduling block. We've got some celebrity Q&As, Tony Todd, Rick Baker, and Robert Englund. And then we've got some filmmaker panels in there, some Horror Hound TV shows. You'll see some familiar faces from the from the horror community just coming by to say hello to fans and attendees. So yeah, we've got a few little things going on that make our convention different from the others that we've seen. We tried to be really interactive because our convention is really interactive. You know, there's a lot of mingling. There's a lot of things we do with filmmakers. Michelle was in charge of the filmmaker social, and then we do a kickoff party night to where everybody can just kind of eat and chill and get to know each other a little bit. So with missing that, we're trying to throw other things in there, like the watch party where people can kind of gather together and watch the film. So we hope that it fills a little bit of that void from not seeing each other in person.
Sure. And Bridget Knox just entered. How are you, Bridget? I can't hear you quite yet.
You're muted. Unmute yourself. If you go down and hover, there you go.
There we go.
I got new headphones, so I'm not.
No.
We lost.
There you are.
Can you hear us, Bridget?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry for the troubles. I switched to my phone. My tablet's being stupid.
No, it's all good. Welcome to the show. I'm Ken.
Thank
This is
you.
my first time meeting Bridget as well. How you doing today, Bridget?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Thank you for taking time out to join us.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity for this.
Oh, no problem. So we were kind of introducing everybody right now. That's what we were doing. So now I'm going to kind of get into the meat of this. The first horror movie that everybody watched. Let's start with you, Kelci. What was the first horror movie that you ever watched?
The first one that I remember watching was Halloween Resurrection. I was like 10 or 11 when it came out, and it was illegal to stay up after bedtime. And it was a weeknight or a weekend night. I think it was like it might have been a Friday, and everybody was in the living room, passed out. And I stayed up and watched it by myself.
Yeah.
And I liked it.
Your parents probably, at least your parents didn't scare you with if you stay up past your bedtime, Busta Rhymes is going to pull some kung fu on you.
No, my dad used to bring up the whole like people under the stairs thing from he used to scare me with that when I was a kid. And yeah, so I was kind of used to it at that point. Sure. I was afraid of Mars attacks when I was a kid. So, I mean, I've been exposed to the genre for a long time.
Sure. Well, and I'm glad you are, because now you're doing this. Dr. Michelle Conty, Michelle, getting you into this. We kind of talked about this a little bit, and this is something that a lot of people do struggle with. The first horror movie they watched. When I say that, I don't want to go so specific as, you know, this was the first. I know it's really hard. What I'm looking for is the first horror experience from a movie that you remember. The first movie that you can remember scaring you into really pushing you into the genre, making you fall in love with horror and fall in love with the anxiety and the adrenaline of that horror brings us all. So what was the one that did it for you, ma'am?
Well, I'm going to modify that a little bit. I grew up, my mom and dad were pretty liberal. So, you know, I watched a lot of horror, a lot of different kinds of movies, whether it was like Alien or, you know, the old stuff like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, or which is a favorite even now, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Phantom of the Opera, all that kind of stuff. The one that like really got my attention was probably the first Freddy movie, the first Nightmare on Elm Street. I was enamored with Nancy because she was current and she was cool and she was so pretty, but she still had her shit together. But she was, you know, there was a dynamic about her. Much of the other horror that I'd watched was old or was completely removed from me. You know, like I saw Alien, but those are all adults, you know, but
Sure.
with Nightmare, they're teenagers, and I mean, I was a little kid, but it was still like, oh, that's like the kids that live down the street from me, and so it kind of made it a little bit more mine, a little bit more real. So, and then the blood scene is still with Johnny Depp's character, and the room that they designed that it, you know, flipped upside down, that one of the best blood baths ever. So that's still a big favorite of mine. But I think the first one that just really said, yes, this includes me, was the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, and to me, I think it's one of the, you put that up there with The Thing and Jaws and Alien as practical effect masterpieces. You were just talking about the bedroom scene, Freddy in the latex coming through the wall, Freddy dragging Tina up the wall with Rod. Tina! Like, just that movie, the practical effects in that movie are, especially for the budget they had, that movie is absolutely hands down. I think it's my all-time favorite horror movie. I think it's the best horror movie ever made. If you take away the last 3 minutes of it, that could propel it up to the best movie ever made. The blow-up doll through the window kind of ruins it for me, but I really think that that's probably one of the best horror movies ever made.
It was definitely one that stuck out, and like I said, this is part of my culture. These includes people like me, made it more real and approachable and attainable.
Okay, and that makes sense too. How about you, Angie? We're talking about the first horror movie. Where did it start for you, love?
It started for me actually at the age of 5. I in the 1978 Dawn of the Dead, I was actually taken to the theater to see that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'd never, you know, a little Disney horror here and there, but as far as the blood, the guts, the gore, that all started then.
Oh, you dove in head first.
Yes, absolutely. I'm assuming that my mother didn't realize what she was taking me to, because she attempted to cover my face pretty quickly. And I think that kind of even drove me a little harder, like, because I saw everything anyway, but it was kind of the realization that, oh, maybe I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe just made the fascination with horror just grow that much more.
Yeah. I want to add on to that real quick because I have the same thing with The Exorcist. I also, just like Michelle, I lived in a very liberal household, but we watched The Exorcist for the first time, and my mother covered my eyes, and she shut the movie off at the crucifix scene. And at that point, I was like, I need to watch this movie. Like, I have to. And I remember finally watching it for the first time and being like, I did not need to watch that movie. It just scares the hell out of me. So I think that you're right, especially when you're at that young age and your parents tell you, no, you can't see this. You're like, ha, good luck with that. So thank you for sharing that with me. JK, my dude, your first horror movie. What started it for you, my friend?
Well, for me, it goes all the way back to Faces of Death. And the reason why I bring Faces of Death up is because, you know, I grew up in an era where you had friends all over the place. The neighborhood kids would come over and bring everything from horror to porn and everything else in between. And when the parents went away, and I was a child of a divorce, so it wasn't as much a liberal household as it was a split household, a single mom.
Sure.
That was a part of it. And when she would go to sleep or she'd be out, we'd be watching stuff. And Faces of Death, after in the early part of my 10s, was the thing that always stuck out to me. And that scene where they serve the monkey's brains, where they crack that skull open and they start scooping it out, was something that stuck with me even to this day. And I mean, it's you know, kind of it's a fake documentary, but it felt so real, and it stuck with me more than you know, Friday the 13th or Halloween or Evil Dead, even coming home, walking home with my friends and looking in the fog, wondering if vines were going to take me, you know, Faces of Death stuck out to me. And it really was something that really, it changed me. And I'm sure Michelle can attest to this, you know, watching horror in early age, it changes the way you see the world. It jaded my perspective on a lot of things as I've gotten older. But that was the first one for me that really opened me up. It didn't scare me. I don't remember being scared. That was more Aliens, but definitely Faces of Death for me.
But see, and it's funny because I can't speak for you women. I can't. But for us guys, I can tell you, you were talking about horror and porn. I've had more movies and magazines tucked right here going to my friends' houses, you know, than any, you know, and it's, you bring that up, you know, I stole my dad's Playboy, so now I got to go over to Chad's house and show him. You know,
I don't want that book, dude. Dude, keep the book now, all right? That's cool. That's cool.
That's okay. So Faces of Death for you, Jay. Audery, what started it for you?
So what started it is we did a lot of drive-in weekends with my family, and the first movie I remember seeing that was scary was the Amityville Horror, but I wasn't scared of it. But the first movie that kind of scared me, and then it's a progression. So Friday the 13th Part 2 was the one that kind of did it for me. I don't know, there was just so many elements of things in that movie that just stayed with me. You know, the guy in the wheelchair, probably one of the worst kills. And I mean, really all he had to do was kind of push him down the stairs. He didn't really have to axe him and, you know, chop him in the face and then, you know, him go flying. But I think it's that last scene. No, I'm sorry. So the scene where they go into the room and it's at the end and she's just like, someone's in this room. Someone's in this goddamn room. It's like, okay, she knew. And it was like that startling thing is like, she's been putting all this together. And so it was like, that was the psychological part of it that got me. And it didn't help that I have a sister that's almost 6 years older than me. Just like she scared me with Amityville Horror, she goes a step further. A couple of years after I'd seen it, she comes downstairs, like she's babysitting me, and she's got a paper sack that she's kind of scrunched and shaped to where it's not so rigidly square. And she has it on her head with a rope tied around it and a knife, and comes after me in an apartment. So it was the psychological and her doing like things like that to fuck with me all the time. So that one sticks out because, you know, at that last scene when he comes jumping through the window, it's like they've killed him literally 3 times and he's back again. So it was that realization of sometimes no matter how smart you play it in a horror movie or in real life, you still might get it. So that always stayed with me. But the good thing is I'm always on my P's and Q's. Like we are always watching things. It's like, hey, babe, 3 o'clock. And it's just like, okay, some weird shit's going on at 3 o'clock. Have, you know, be ready for it. I mean, it's just kind of what we do. I am, you know, horror movies have had an effect on me, but they've had a really positive effect on me because if something starts to happen, I'm out of there or I'm grabbing something to defend with because it's going to be a hard kill. So horror movies have had a really positive effect on me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I know if something goes down, not to run up the stairs.
Exactly.
So
I'm diving through a window. Yeah, I'm not, before I run upstairs, I'm going through a window. I mean, I may be broken and cut, but at least I have a chance, you know.
Right. So with you, we're going Friday the 13th Part 2. George, my man, what started it for you?
I'd have to say what really got me was we had a horror host here in Indiana called Sammy Terry. And Sammy Terry would show all, you know, well, like horror hosts do, you know, just all kinds of horror movies. There was one in particular that, I mean, he scared me more than any of the movies really did. He was just that creepy. Just his laugh. I would hide behind the couch or a chair and plug my ears and close my eyes because it was him. And then I'd come out and watch the movie. But the movie he showed that freaked me out the most was this one called The Legend of Hell House. And had Roddy McDowell in there, and it was kind of like a spirituality versus science. And, you know, the science guy to, you know, say that no, science will prove that there are ghosts and that they're real, and this going into this haunted house, and then the spiritual guy says, oh, no, it's through this. And it was a nice balance, but that movie scared the shit out of me as a kid, and I couldn't get it out of my head. I mean, there's so many, but some of the earlier stuff that I grew up with was the Universal films, the Universal monster films, and Godzilla. My parents were not liberal. They were a little bit more like, hey, let's pull this back a bit. Just like, we're not okay with you watching it. Like my first one that was kind of on the edge of it, like I had to sneak and watch Predator, the first Terminator movie. Those ones that I was just like, I wasn't able to see those quite yet. Like, don't know about that. But until I was able to like peek around and check out, the T-800 coming. Man, that was awesome effects. Even though it was like all stop motion, or that was just badass to me. So yeah, some of those earlier, but I still, at my heart, my basis, my foundation is Creature from the Black Lagoon, Wolfman, all those. So
the Universal monsters for sure.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you talk about Terminator, man. Terminator is a total slasher film. Like it's a total, total robot slasher. Like I love the Terminator film. The first and second one both. I'm so enamored with both of those movies. And like you said, at that young age, you watch it now and those effects still hold up. Like those were really, really good. Like in Terminator 2, when the guy, gets his coffee cup out and then he turns around and the T-1000 puts his finger through his head. I remember just being like, holy shit, like that scared me. Like that scene terrified me. So I love it, man. So we'll talk about The Legend of Hell House with you a little bit. But before we do that, Bridget, hello.
Hi.
Your first horror movie, what was yours? What started it for you?
Well, there's two that I could remember. I went back and watched them this week. The first one that I rented repeatedly is kind of more of a kid's horror movie, was Ernest Scared Stupid. That was my favorite. On repeat. But the first real one that I can remember, because my mom didn't realize who my brother rented it, who is 4 years younger than me, was Amityville Dollhouse. Mom didn't realize it was a horror movie.
Nice.
So
I'm just super stoked that someone brought up Ernest Scared Stupid. Like,
When
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I love Ernest, and that was my favorite movie as a kid.
Yeah, I seen he played in the Beverly Hillbillies remake. And I was like, Ernest, what are you doing? You get back. You can't do this.
Yeah.
So I got a couple questions for you guys about the movies. Usually I ask every question, but with the amount of people I have, I'm gonna bounce the questions a little bit. I'm gonna go back and start at the beginning with you, Kelci. With you, we are talking about Halloween Resurrection. So with Halloween Resurrection, what was your favorite death in this movie? I hate saying favorite, that's dark, but what death stuck with you the most?
When they were in the basement of the house, they were trying to run away, and then there was that like gate in the tunnel, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but I'm pretty sure they got like knifed through the chest or something. That was the one that I could definitely remember the most. I went back and watched it. I watched all the Halloweens last year for Halloween. And so that scene, I was like, yeah, definitely that one stuck with me out of all of the other parts. I liked the aspect of them streaming the videos and then everybody watching these people die. That was another thing that really stuck out to me. So yeah, I would have to say that was my favorite death scene.
Well, and for that point in time, we were talking about it in movies. Resurrection gets a bad rep, and I get it. The Busta Rhymes kung fu thing, like it is definitely over the top and ridiculous. But it really was inventive at that time to do the live streaming thing. I mean, and that even goes as far as to Scream 4, how she's doing it for her 15. They wanted to be caught with the live streaming thing. I mean, it's something that started in Resurrection and kind of got glossed over just because of how bad of a rep that movie got. So yeah. I really do think that it was super inventive of them in that movie to start with the whole live streaming thing. I thought that was a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, and for that time, it was something new too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it wasn't something that we saw every day. Found footage wasn't a huge thing then, so this was something that was really cool and kind of diverse at that moment in time. So let's bounce over to you, Michelle. When we're talking about with you, we have Nightmare on Elm Street. Which scene affected you the most and why?
Well, I was like 6, 7 years old or so when I saw that, and it's one of the last movies I got to see with my dad because he passed away not long after that. And what really stuck out was Johnny Depp's scene, his kill scene, and I wanted to know if that really was how much blood was in the human body. And I was such a science kid that I was just absolutely fascinated with that. It should have terrified me, but it made me question everything. And now I'm obsessed with cinema blood, and I think now we know why. So that really brought me in. And then I wanted to know how they did that, how Freddy's face was coming through the wall, and how were they able to drag her up the wall but she didn't die, and all of these sort of things, because I was taught that it's a movie, it's pretend. There's somebody that makes all of this science, that makes all of this math, that makes all of these things work. So I wanted to know those things.
Sure.
The part that really did give me the creeps is Freddy's talons on metal. And so for many years after that, and I grew up in rural America, the southern part of the Midwest, so you'd hear metal scraping, and that would just be like, ooh, that bothered me, was the sound. Whereas the kills, it's like, oh, how do you do that? And they not actually die? Is that really how much blood's there? How does that work?
Right. And as a young, like I've talked about before, when you're young and you go from watching, at the worst, Hocus Pocus, to going and seeing A Nightmare on Elm Street, I mean, that's a total, that spins you on your head. Like, what the hell am I watching right now? This is terrifying. It's scary. So that, again, while we're talking about diving in head first on a horror movie, Angie, Dawn of the Dead, in that movie, what is your favorite scene?
My favorite scene is the kill in the middle of the mall. That's the one that really stuck out to me. When they're ripping the chest open and eating the victim, just face first. And maybe it was odd that fascinated me as a 5-year-old, but I think another part of that is with the bikers being involved in that scene. And I grew up with Minnie around me, and so that also kind of triggered something. Like I identified with those characters.
Yeah. It hits it closer to home at that point, which definitely makes you want to, I don't want to say want to, but it forces you to remember that a little bit more because of how it makes you feel personally, especially at that young age, trying to separate fantasy from reality. It's a lot harder when you see things that you can relate to on the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
So I definitely understand that as well. Jay, with Faces of Death, what's the first thing you think of when you think of Faces of Death?
Oh, it's easy. It's the monkey brain scene. But when you look at that, the thing that I loved about Faces of Death wasn't just one scene. Even though we found out it wasn't real, the fact that this documentary would take you around the world to show you all these different scenes, they all impact people in so many different ways. That's one of the things I love about it. And the electrocution scene, which has become kind of a hallmark scene with with the tape over the eyes, and it felt so real at such a young age to be able to watch that and live vicariously through that, something that was so forbidden.
Sure. And I agree with you because it's, to me, I think of Faces of Death like I think of the Blair Witch. The Blair Witch popped up at a time where the internet wasn't what it is today. So you couldn't just go research openly on your phone. So the mystery around the Blair Witch of, is this real? Is this fake? Totally enhanced the viewing of the movie because you don't know at that time, like, fuck, this is real. No, it's not. It's fake. Yes, it's real. I think that was the best marketing campaign for a movie of all time because they brought in so much money based on just the mythos alone. So in Faces of Death, same thing. Is this real? Is this fake? Yeah. They don't, so that's the same thing. Like that type of marketing at that time, you couldn't do that now with the internet the way that it is, but back then to do that type of marketing was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely genius.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with it wholeheartedly. And it's definitely a film that is still lingered with all of its sequels all the years later. And it's even had spin-offs like 1,000 Ways to Die that was on Spike TV. And we see that now and, we're kind of desensitized to it. And Faces of Death really was that. What's up, Audery?
I'll say except for a lot of the 1,000 Ways to Die are real. We've had 3 of them here from Indiana, and I remember the specific one where the guys got into the balloon, and they basically killed themselves on like helium. They thought it would be fun to go in, and I just vividly remember that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt bad, but I'm like, dumbasses, how you can't go in there and breathe. I mean, I'm like, I'm this age and I know this. How did you not know it? But you know, bad decisions. But yeah, you're right. And and my dad is always, we call him worst case scenario Joe, because he can put any activity to dying. Well, don't do that, because you know if you do this, he's like holy shit, he's like Beverly Goldberg. It just dawned on me. Everything she says bad that can happen, that is my dad. I mean, seriously, you can just be writing with a pencil and he will give you like 3 warnings about how dangerous that pencil is.
Yeah.
Did he ever tell you that he has failed you as a father?
No, he has not said that one.
He's still alive. How did he fail?
Love the Goldbergs. I'm glad you brought that up.
But no, he has not said that. I have
no, while I got you, Audery, Friday the 13th, part 2, we talked about the hatchet in the face, or I think it was machete in the face. Is that the death?
In the face, yeah.
Yeah, is that the death that impacted you the most, or was there another death in that movie that hit you a little harder?
Well, it didn't impact me the most, like in a like I'm scared way. I thought it was really petty of Jason to do that, and but it was funny. I mean, we all know Jason's petty as fuck. He does all kinds of stuff he doesn't need to do. But that was really petty and unfortunate because, again, he really could have just pushed him down the stairs.
Sure.
But the one that stays with me from that film is the one where the couple are having sex, where they just finish and he comes in and spears them both.
Yeah.
I mean, that sticks with you. It's like, you already know that, you know, the omens of old men, when you have sex in a movie or you do drugs, those are the ones, you know, you're going to get killed. Well, that was like a double whammy because that wasn't the first time. This was like their second soiree in the film. You don't see the first one. You just know it happened.
Right.
And so to get speared while just getting finished, and that one sticks with me because it's funny and it's tragic. And I got to say, if you got to go in a horror movie, I mean, quick, easy peasy, you had a good time before, you know.
I was going to say, that's probably pretty ideal. Like, if that's me, I'm, you know, well, I guess my time's up. But you were just talking about how petty Jason is. I was going to say, I think Jason Voorhees is like the biggest cock block in the history of cinema.
He is. He is. I mean, if you think about real quick, like the Friday the 13th part 4, when he gets the twin sister, I'm like, he had just killed someone downstairs. So you mean to tell me you go from downstairs, go up, go through on the second floor, go to the window just to throw someone out of it, and then you go back downstairs to kill again? I'm like, he is so petty.
He's a cock block. He's like, I'll teach these guys to fuck while I'm in the lake, bastards.
I don't want any, but I'm going to make sure that you don't get any either.
Right. So, George, I got to be honest with you. I have never seen The Legend of Hell House. So I'm going to be a little bit different here with my question to you because I don't have any rebuttal that I can throw back at you about it. But when you think of that movie, what is the first thing that pops into your head?
First thing that pops into my head is, well, something I don't want to end up saying because then it's going to ruin the ending. But
spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Like,
fast forward ahead 30 seconds or go watch the movie and come back.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to ruin the movie for anybody, especially for you. So definitely check it out and go watch it. The thing that really sticks with me the most is just that it made me think like, oh, shit, because I didn't believe in ghosts as a kid. And then I was like thinking, damn, this movie alone made me kind of question those aspects. And that's what kind of freaked me out a little bit was, damn, is there really something? It's just like, I know this movie isn't real. It's make-believe, you know, I know, but it hit all those tones because I can watch a movie and it's very spiritually based and I'm like, okay, you know, well, there's some bias there, but this one, when they added the science in there, it felt real to me. And when there's a scene, and I mean, isn't spoilerish, that this girl is possessed, and I'd already read stories or heard stories about, you know, people that had allowed something into their body, and then ectoplasm coming from their fingertips, stuff like that, that you'd hear from like the old, like 1910s, 1920s, where that stuff was very popular. They'd have seance parties. It was interesting seeing that seance there, and I was just like, oh shit, this looks real to me.
Mhm.
So I think it would be that. It was something that creeped me out. That's the essence of it. It creeped me out as a kid, the whole movie. There's so many parts of it that was just like, it left you unnerved. It put the hair on the back of my neck. That was like the first time that it really, something scared me outside of like being at the drive-in and seeing Indiana Jones and watching the Nazis' faces melt, and I wasn't supposed to be watching that, but I was like, it's like, oh shit. Like, I really wish I didn't open my eyes right at that part, but I did. It's just like, it was a double feature of Dragon Slayer and Indiana Jones, and I was just like, oh damn, that was a bit much. So, for little me.
Right. That's an iconic scene though, man. I love the scene in Indy with the Nazis. I love that.
Brutal.
So, oh yeah, Bridget, when we're talking about, do you want to talk about Amityville Dollhouse, or do you want to talk about Ernest Scared Stupid?
Either works for me. I mean, Ernest is my favorite.
Well, let's talk about Ernest. I know it's hard to pick really a scene that affected you because there's not really any, real death scenes in that movie. But when you think about Ernest Scared Stupid, what scene affected you the most in that movie?
The one that grossed me out the most was when Ernest kissed the troll on it, like on his boogery nose, and it's just it's disgusting. I love Ernest though.
And we've all
Oh,
been
yeah.
there, okay?
What was that?
Hey, we've all been there before, okay? We've
Yeah.
had dating experiences like that.
I'm usually the troll.
There you go.
So go back to the beginning. Kelci, now I'm going to ask you guys a question, not about your first horror movie, but I want to go scream on you guys. You guys are all very influential. You're talking about, you guys are doing the film festival. So I want to know, what is your favorite horror movie? What's your favorite scary movie, Kelci? So starting with you, what is your favorite?
Man, that's a really tough decision. I'm like George. I like the Universal monsters. My favorite's Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein. But then I also really liked, like when I was in high school, I watched Grindhouse when it came out in theater. Planet Terror was my favorite of the two.
Nice.
That was it's still probably one of my favorites to this day.
A lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and it influenced me kind of to want to get into filmmaking. I mean, I kind of already wanted to get into it, but that definitely influenced me more. And like,
Well, it's nice that you got the nudge there. I like that nudged you in the right direction, because that led you to me. So
right?
that makes me happy that something like that could influence you so much. That's why I love horror movies. And anybody that's watched these video podcasts are probably sick of hearing me say this line, but you don't have a rom-com con, but we have horror film festivals. We have horror conventions. That's how important horror movies are to us. We're willing to take time out of our day to dress up and go cosplay and go to this festival and talk to other horror fans and hang out with other horror fans. And the horror community is one of the nicest, best communities in the whole world. Everybody is so kind and sweet, and they're so willing to help out. Like you guys, I have all you guys coming on here to talk to me about horror movies, just because there's no really benefit for any of us. It's just something that we all want to do for fun. And I'm so blessed that I have run into some of the best people in the whole community here. So thank you guys for doing this again. It really means a lot. And I love how it ties in together. So it's really, really cool.
There are no loners in the film festival or the convention. It's like when you see someone, and the funny thing is, because we've all been going to the same one for so long, it's almost like we know people that aren't, we're like, hey, are you new? It's just like, and if we see someone by themselves, we go over, we introduce ourselves, and not just for working for, this is before, I worked in this capacity. I was just a volunteer before. But you see people and you go up to them, you bring them into your group, you ask them, hey, do you want to hang out with us? Because there are no loners. We're all family at the horror conventions. And that's what I have learned about this community is it is a family. You see each other at different conventions and festivals all year. So, it's cool.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that real quick before I get to you, Michelle, about your favorite horror movie. Story I have real quick. When my son was 5 years old, he was a huge fan of The Walking Dead. So we went to a convention that had Norman Reedus there, Daryl, and we waited in line for like 2 hours. We finally got up there, and when we got to the front, the security guard was like, no pictures and no autographs, and my son just visually broke. And Norman asked the guy, he said, hey, well, since I can't get pictures or autographs, can you run and grab me a chocolate ball out of my thing for the kid? So the security guard walked off. He said, pick him up real quick and grab your cell phone. So I picked him up, snapped a picture of us with the cell phone, and then put him back down. And that little thing, he could have been like, sorry, man, security, I can't do anything about it. But he just went out of his way for 30 seconds and made my son's whole day. You know, my son showed that picture off at school for show and tell. You know, like that little thing that Norman Reedus did. And that just shows you how loving and connected the horror community is. I'm willing to, you know, send this guy away to get a picture with this kid that I'm not going to remember in 15 minutes, but I know it's going to mean the world to him for a long time. So, you know, that's a story I like to tell because it's so meaningful to me, and it really shows how genuine and nice a lot of the people in the horror community are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from there, Michelle, let's talk about your favorite horror movie.
Oh, I was a film professor for a long time, so I've got favorites in different categories. One of my favorites, because it's so fun and it's a great piece for film history, is the original From Dusk Till Dawn. Robert
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino. Such a fun piece. So many amazing people in it. Fantastic special effects. Great soundtrack. One of my favorite special effects people is in it. So, you know, I love Tom Savini, and his role was Sex Machine. It's just so much fun. It is great. It's a great film for when you're having a bad day and you just want to put it all away, or if you're having a good day and you want to just continue to ramp it up. And I used it in my class multiple times because we could pick through and who is this actor and who is this actress and what have they been in, what have they done, and what is this hearken to, and this is an homage over here. So a way to link to film gone by. So that's the one I want to talk about.
That's a fantastic favorite horror movie. Actually, I haven't seen that movie in probably 15 years, so I think I'm going to have to rewatch that movie because you're right. I'm not a huge vampire movie guy, but for me, it was always, when it came to vampires, From Dusk Till Dawn and Fright Night. That was about the two that's about as vampirish I could get, but that is a fantastic movie, and I have yet to talk about that movie, so thank you for bringing that one up.
Yeah, some of them that I really dig are like the really heavy, gory, difficult to watch, you know, Solo, 120 Days of Sodom, the original French Martyrs, those types of things. But they're headier. That's something that you really have to be in tune with.
Sure.
If you're watching it with someone, you got to be ready to explain some shit. But when it comes to From Dusk Till Dawn, you can just sit down and chill and just let them take you on this fantastic ride.
Absolutely. So what about you, Miss Angie? We're talking favorites. What you got for me?
Well, it's a difficult one because it is, you see so many different aspects in so many different movies that you love. So to narrow that down, I guess I'll go sappy. And I'm going to go with Creepshow. And that is the movie that my husband and I, that was our first date. Plus, my introduction to anthology, which I love that format.
Oh, absolutely. Creepshow to me is about his best. I have the Creepshow 2 soundtrack on vinyl over the score. So, I mean, you know, Creepshow to me, I can hold my breath for a long time. I can't tell you how many times me and my friends would say that when we were kids, you know, just messing around. So I'm with you. I love that film. Absolutely adore it. JK, how about you, my friend?
Well, it comes down to two for me. I mean, Audition is one of them for me. I love Audition, and I've collected a lot of the different, you know, poster memorabilia. But 28 Days Later. 28 Days Later is a masterclass in filmmaking because, you know, especially listening to the commentary with Danny Boyle and his cinematographer, to be able to clear the streets for minutes in London and give that feeling, that dread, and have them so rage-filled, it was something that reinvigorated a very tired subgenre. And 28 Days Later, some people don't consider even a horror movie. you know, and it's because of where Danny Boyle comes from. But 28 Days Later for me is the tops for so many reasons.
One scene from 28 Days Later that's always got me is the blood drop in the eye.
Oh my God, it's so emotional to see him just go through, and you go through the process, nothing is hidden from you, and then you just see the terror on their faces on what has to be done. It's a very emotional film.
And to survive everything, and then a fucking blood drop in the eye gets you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something, Train to Busan later on, it was definitely a film that you see a little bit of influence from 28 Days Later with that emotional component.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because, like I've talked about it before, life is not always sunshine and rainbows. The good guy doesn't always win. We don't always survive. So to see him go through and realistically, how many times does something like that happen? You go through the hardest shit ever, then the littlest thing brings you down.
Yep.
You know, you're making it through all this horde of zombies. You look up and one fucking blood drop gets you. You know, so that's brilliant. Brilliant choice. I love it. Miss Audery, what about you?
This is always a hard question for me. And I hate to give this answer because it's so, I feel like cliche now, but my reasoning behind it is not. And I'm going to go with the original Halloween. That movie holds so much, I think, for me, from watching it as a kid and watching it, multiple times a year through, the last 25, 30 years, longer than that. And it never gets old. And I think it's based on, not only was it a slasher, it was a psychological drama. When you take the aspect of what is scary, to me, it's scarier to know that someone could be a total psychotic killer standing right next to you and you wouldn't know it. That's what scares me about Michael Myers, and that's what did not scare me about the second wave of movies with Rob Zombie. They weren't scary to me because if you see a guy that's like 6'7", hulking guy, yeah, you're going to be scared. You're not going to even go on the same street as him because he looks intimidating and scary, well, because of his size. What I liked about the original movies is it was so subtle, especially during that time. I remember being a kid and everybody dressed up. People drove around in their cars with their mask on, and it was just like Halloween. And that's what was scary, is because you didn't know. You did not know that this was a complete killer that was just, didn't give a shit. And that's the part that was scary. And I would go back to that being one of the most iconic soundtracks or sounds that everyone knows that movie, whether you've watched it or not, someone has watched it and has done it or has hummed it, or you've seen it in commercials. It's very iconic. And that they made such an impactful movie with very little money. And, and it turned out brilliant. I don't know. It's just always going to hold a place in my heart because it was like your first, it was a slasher that just, I don't know. And from the beginning, it was just off the rocker. I mean, oh my gosh, this kid just kills his sister. I mean, who the fuck does that? So you're just kind of like, this movie is going to be lit from the beginning because it starts off, just so in your face. That's how you open a movie.
Three things I want to bring up about what you just said. One, this may show how bad my head is, but when I was a kid, that opening was awesome. I got to see a chick's boobies, and then I got to see her get killed. So as a little kid, it was like boobies and death. Awesome. And then you were talking about the score. I've talked many times about there's three movies, Halloween, Jaws, and Star Wars. Everybody knows those scores. Whether you've seen those films or not, those scores are so iconic. The Halloween, Jaws, the Imperial March, everybody knows those scores. So sometimes that just goes to show you how influential a score can be compared to a movie.
And that's the thing that everyone's shooting for after that. You are shooting for that perfect, score. And because it does impact the movie a lot.
Yeah. And the shape, when you're talking about Michael Myers, the shape, when he pulls his mask off and then he comes in and you see that he's just a normal guy. To me, that is so terrifying. Like you were saying, this is just your normal guy. This isn't a guy that's been burned in a fire. This isn't a kid that drowned in a lake and is decomposing. This is a normal guy that you're seeing. And he's just an evil human being. So I agree. I can totally fuck with Halloween. I love that franchise. I love that film. So I totally agree. George, favorite horror movie?
Man, the level of difficulty that this question comes down to. I mean, there's just so much. I mean, as Michelle was mentioning, it's just like there's so many different. It's almost like, what's your favorite baby?
Right.
No, it's not mine. I was just like that. Like some of the things, like earliest memories of Creature from the Black Lagoon. And then whenever I'm thinking of like deeply emotional things that really hit me hard, like Mist. And then things that meant to me because of the time that it came out and was so impactful to me, like Scream was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably have to say the ones that stick out the most. Some of it is just the visual aspect. Even taking a story that I loved so much growing up is Sleepy Hollow. To me, that was, it was so amazing. It was whimsical, and it took something that I already loved and took it a whole other level higher and he made it his own, and it was just beautiful. It's kind of tough between Sleepy Hollow and then my other is Jeepers Creepers. That first Creepers movie, it really hit home for me because it was so much like I was Derry, the little brat brother, and his sister was like my middle sister. And it was so much like us because we had that same kind of, we liked being around each other. We would constantly fuck with one another and just, we laughed, we talked shit to each other. So it was the same thing. We'd have games in the car, because back then it's just like you didn't have something other than maybe a book to end up reading it while you're in the back seat and you're taking a long drive. It's just like, no, you would play a game. You played Slug Bug and you'd punch one another and stuff.
Yes.
Whenever a VW bug passes, it's like Slug Bug yellow, bam.
Yep.
But it was just stuff like that. We played games, and it felt similar. It felt very familiar to me. And then to throw something into and she was that strong one that I looked up to as a kid. And so I was just like, wow. It's just like, even at the end, I was just like, wow. It's just like, this really feels like it could have been us if our lives went in this other way. So for me, and not even just that, but the Creeper was such an awesome original character when we went through such a dry spell where there was no really cool original creatures. There was killers, but there wasn't any cool like creature features that came out. And that one was just one I was just like, I needed this. And there was nothing, that really fueled that need that I had that was empty for a while for me.
So when you identify that to you, all I'm hearing is you have beautiful eyes. That's all I hear in this whole story is that you have beautiful eyes. All right, Bridget, up to you. Your favorite horror movie?
Favorite horror movie? That is a really tough question. I like some of the originals, like Exorcist, Carrie, those. But The Exorcist is what stands out in my mind.
Now, with The Exorcist, I don't think you were here at the beginning when I was talking about The Exorcist. That's a movie that my mom, that's the only movie that she ever shut off. So I always had this super desire to watch that movie just because it was censored in my life.
Yeah. My mom actually knows that staircase the priest falls down. She walked by it all the time when she was at Georgetown.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. I watched it recently, probably last year when AMC did their like 30 Nights of Horror or whatever. And I had it on and my mom told me about that. I was like, really? Cool.
Right. So I'm going to go in backwards order here. I'm to the last question. What we do, I don't think you were here for this part either, Bridget. I always end this with a skull count. We'll go back to Ernest Scared Stupid. What we'll do is we'll rate it on a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. What are you rating Ernest Scared Stupid?
6. It's got a special place in my heart.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. So George, back to what was it called? The Legends of Hell House. What are you rating that 0 to 5 skulls?
I'm going to give it a 4. It said, you know, it was a really good movie. You know, it didn't really, I think it didn't age very well, but at the same time, it was very iconic for, you know, for what it ended up bringing, something different, something new, you know, to the genre. And it's not a very bloody movie, which I don't have to have that. Its high points are the suspense aspects of it, that it played up really nice. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Fair. I've never seen it, so I'm excited to watch it. Audery, what about you?
I'm gonna have to give. I mean, it's not a perfect movie, but it's perfect for the time and for what they had to work with. So I'm going to give Friday the 13th a 5 because it had some really good kills. It had some suspense. It had smart people. I don't know. It's a 5 for me because it's just, it's perfect in a lot of ways to me. So.
Yep. And that's what I want. I want your opinion. I don't want a critical opinion, just how you feel when you, for me, I don't know if you guys can tell, but House 1986, yeah. that is Roger Cobb is my dude. I love that movie. I adore it. It was my first horror movie. It's still my favorite horror movie. It does so much for me. So for me, that gets 5, and everybody else laughs at me for that. So, Jay, Faces of Death. What are we rating that?
Faces of Death for me is probably, now that I look back on it, it's maybe a 3. It's even though it had that realistic feel and it stuck with me at such an early age. There's been so many films, and for that, it was also watered down with so many sequels. But the punch and impact of a film like that it was that film that was a whisper in the dark that, you had to go how many towns over to be able to get a VHS copy of that film, something like that, So I'm going to go 3 for Faces of Death.
Yeah. My original Faces of Death one that I had was one that I recorded over another cassette tape of, but I taped the bottom because the bottom pin was broken off. So I put tape over that bottom pin to make sure I'd be able to record it. So that's another reason I love talking about this. It brings back these memories that I wouldn't have thought of unless I had talked to you guys about it. So that's amazing. Miss Angie, we were talking about Dawn of the Dead, 0 to 5 skulls. What are you ranking it?
I'm totally giving it a 5 because I think Romero he was outstanding in his time, what he did. Again, I really lean towards the blood and guts, and he's the reason why. And I think it stands up today, maybe not quite as well, but I'd say fairly well still today.
Well, and honestly, I don't want to go too off topic here, but I think that the 2003 remake is also phenomenal. But the thing about that is, I could watch the original and the 2003 remake, and they both hold up as well for me. I don't have to choose one or the other. Like my kids, I don't have to choose one or the other. I love them both. So it's one of those things where I absolutely agreed with the 2003. I know George Romero wasn't a huge fan because of the running zombies, but I love it. I love the 2003 one. I love the original one. So, and that's one of those films. I'm not a person that hates remakes. I think there are plenty of really good remakes. They just got to be done right. And I think that one absolutely nailed it. So, Dr. Michelle, we're talking your favorite horror movie. Or I'm sorry. No, we're done with that part. I was like, I already know this. Okay, 0 to 5 skulls on your first horror movie, Nightmare on Elm Street. What are we ranking that?
Oh, I want to give it a 5. There are some flaws in there. There are some areas where it's like, really? But I think for an overall piece and for its lasting power, not only with me, but in the genre and how much it's influenced films and filmmakers and creatives of all sorts, I think it deserves its 5 skulls.
That's amazing. Like I've said, that's one of my favorite horror movies of all time, even with a blow-up doll going through the window at the end. Like, that's such a great movie with such a sad, sad ending that could have been so much better if they would have let Wes do the ending that he wanted. I guess the studio threw that ending on there because they wanted it to be ambiguous about Nightmare 2. So I think if we could have had it the way that he wanted to end it, it would have been so much better. So last but absolutely certainly not least, Miss Kelci, what are you ranking on a scale of 0 to 5 skulls?
For Halloween Resurrection, I'm going to give it a 3 because it's not my favorite in the series, but it was my first one as my introduction to the series. And, I have a soft spot for Halloween. So, Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3 just because of it wasn't the best one, but it's also like, it stuck with me. So
What started it for you?
right, it was teetering between a 3 and a 4 for me. So.
And that's absolutely fair. You guys don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're going down in the description, checking out a lot of the hard work that these guys are doing. They're doing a great job out there. So make sure you're checking out everything they do. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.